Welcome to another post-game version of Expected Buffalo, the podcast, brought to you by One Pie Pizza in Hiller and Comerford, 1866 Hiller Law, your local injury and disability go-to. It got hairy for a second, but we are here discussing another win, 5-3 win for the Sabres over the Vancouver Canucks. We'll get into the game from beginning to end is an interesting story to talk about. We'll get into some of the key players, and then we will look ahead to what we have coming this week. But where we'll start things here is, a pickup of a lot of the conversation this week, and then the podcast last night too. The response, right? That's what we all wanted to see coming off of the 10-game winning streak, losing to Columbus, back on home ice. How do you respond against a team that on paper you're better than? And, a game you should have, again, playing on home ice. It should be a win if you want to be a playoff team. And to their credit, they came out of the gate hot. They were aggressive. They were playing fast. They were forechecking strong. They were all over the Canucks for the beginning of that game in the first period. Now, Vancouver got their shot totals up and got their chances on 2 power plays, but when the game was at 5-on-5 in the first period, it was all Sabres. So really that's encouraging, I think, to see that sign that, it wasn't a slow start or a sluggish game, that you snuck one out 3-2 or 2-1. They snuck one out here, but for a different reason, which we'll get to in a minute here. But I think it was encouraging for me to see them play that well out of the gate, to have that mojo, if you will, that belief that they're going to go out, they're going to win this game, they're going to assert their dominance, and play the way that works for them. That it's when they're most successful, and that's playing fast, that's forechecking hard. I feel like every loose puck in that first period, they were winning battles, they were physically just more in control. I guess it was the best way to put it. Just, I don't want to say physically dominant, because they really weren't hitting, but it was just winning battles, I think is the way to put it. They were after pucks. They were determined to be the first player on the puck. So, good start for sure. Second period, what I thought was okay. Definitely not as strong as the first period, and maybe that's difficult to maintain throughout 60 minutes, but I thought for the most part they were okay. They built themselves up to a 3-0 lead and went into the third period pretty comfortably. And then the third period happens, and really for me, it's a tale of two halves of that period. For the first 10 minutes of that period, I thought, they were fine. They weren't giving up much 5-on-5. You're just running out the clock on a 3-goal lead, and, they were well on their way. And then there was the 4-minute penalty, the high-sticking penalty, the Tage that, injected a little bit of life into Vancouver. They get a goal on that. Then they get another goal quickly after that to make it 4-2, and then another one to, make it 4-3 in a short period of time. And, I think there was almost 5 minutes left in the game, and they made it 4-3. And, it got a little nerve-wracking there, and credit to Lindy Ruff for using his timeout in that situation and calming his team down. And I feel like for the remaining 2 minutes or 2.5 minutes, if you will, until Doan hit that long empty netter, they were fine and in control, but it's really not what you want to see. I get it. It's you get one on the power in the penalty kill, power play, whatever, and then it's it's a great shot by Pettersson, makes it 4-2, and then you have that goal you'd probably like a save on to make it 4-3, and Vancouver thinks they have life and they're in it, and a little bit of doubt creeps in, and people, oh my god, I've seen this movie before, that watch the Sabres, and all of those things creep into your game a little bit. So it's unfortunate, because I think it puts a little bit of a damper on what was a mostly good night and a mostly strong performance, is the way that game ended. And to their credit, they didn't let it get away from them. They calmed down. They did a good job killing off the last few minutes until the empty net goal. But yeah, I mean, you would hope this is something that they can learn from. They, maybe you don't need to take your foot off the gas that much. I feel like there was a lot of a feeling they thought Vancouver was going to go away as it got later in the game, and it seemed like maybe that was the case until they got one and then a second one, and it sparked them. And in victory, thankfully, like I said, you hope that you pull something out of that. You hope that this team learns that they can't play the game that way. They have to play, see the game out no matter what your lead is. So yeah, it's a little bit of a damper on a relatively, I think, positive night. But a win. Win's a win. 2 points gets you back in it, or gets you back in the win column. They're still in it, of course. Looking at this updated standings, they're technically 1 point out of the playoffs. But if you go by points percentage, they would be one of the 2 teams that are in ahead of the Washington Capitals. So the Capitals have a .581 points percentage with 43 games played and 50 points. The Sabres are at a .585 with 41 games and 48 points. And then the Penguins would be your number one. Actually, the Penguins, by points percentage, would find themselves third place in the Metro, and the Islanders would be the top wildcard team by points percentage. But by just straight points, they're still a point out. They're 4 points back of Montreal. They are 6 points back of Detroit, but they still have 3 games in hand on the Red Wings. It's a tough spot for the Red Wings there. They've played 44 games to 42 and 41 for the rest of the division, so they're kind of way out in front in terms of games played. So yeah, that's the full picture of where we stand here at the end of the night. And this conference, man, it's gonna be close. You just gotta keep winning. It's really, the Columbus Blue Jackets are only 5 points behind them and they're the last place team in the Eastern Conference. So you got to keep winning games. You really can't get any long streaks here. You got to keep rolling. Their home record improves to 13-5-2, which is good when you consider after this one, 5 of the next 6 games are going to be on home ice. So you kind of want to. This is the point, you think, to stack some wins here, and especially against conference opponents that they have coming up here. So overall feeling, for the most part, good. Not a great end. Hope you learn from it, and start another win streak here. Let's put a couple on the board, and see where things have us in a couple of weeks in the middle of January. All right, so let's touch on a few players that I want to talk about in this game. So the first one is going to be Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen. Great performance. I know 3 goals went in. I know one of the goals, not great. I'm not going to deny that. But overall, from the beginning of the game, he really looked calm and in it. And that's when you can tell when he's at his best, when he's not really chasing the game, when there's not a lot of rebounds, he settles in, right? Pucks stick to him, isn't chasing. And you can see that right out of the gate. He was attacking, he was aggressive. And that's the Luukkonen you want to see. And that's when he's on his game and he's feeling good. And, in the third period, it got a little hairy. But again, I thought there were situations. He made some real nice saves on the penalty kill. He made some nice saves on the 6-on-5 after the Sabres scored the empty net goal. In Natural Stat Trick's model, in all situations, the Canucks put up a 6.99 expected goals for. So Luukkonen, who allows 3 goals, still ends the night 2.99 goals save above expected. And that's pretty nuts when you think of the Sabres really didn't give up a lot at 5-on-5. I think it was a 1.92, which is nothing crazy. But almost 5 expected goals given up on the penalty kill, and the 6-on-5 is kind of crazy. But again, if you watch this game, you saw that. That's where Vancouver had a lot of their great opportunities, was in those situations around the net, a lot of quality opportunities, and that's where you're going to see that that expected goal number go up, is when those rebound opportunities around the net, those in close opportunities, those are the highest expected goal sequences, and that's what's going to boost your number up. And it's not to say that they weren't legitimately quality opportunities, they were. So, maybe you want to see a little bit better out of the PK overall to reduce those chances. The power play got one or two opportunities. They didn't look good. So that's a continuing concern, especially with Zucker being back. So, we talked about that. I talked about that yesterday in the podcast. So that's something we have to keep an eye on. Maybe you hope Zucker fixes that, but it just didn't look good at all. So that's rough, and we'll have to keep an eye on that. Hope it doesn't hurt him here as we head into the second half of the season. The other player I want to call out is Bo Byram. Him and Power really have been pretty good here for probably close to a month. So full credit to both of them. But really, I think I want to focus. I've talked about Power and his improvement, and I think tonight is Byram's turn. It's confidence, right? And there's still some tough situations in the defensive zone, and that's always going to be the case, and it'll be the same thing with Power too. But I think for the most part, there's a confident player moving the puck well, getting up in the play offensively, seeing the ice well, attacking in the offensive zone, getting down low. If he's not scoring goals, he's finding other players. That pass to Tuck, I think it was the third goal across the crease from the corner to essentially the back door, was excellent. And I want to give Byram, his flowers here. He's somebody that I've picked on for sure over the last, year, I guess you could say. So, credit where it's due, basically. And it's been big. It's been big for those two players to step up in the situation where they lost Connor Timmins a couple of weeks ago. Kesselring is out again. Having those two players step up, especially when you consider Dahlin, I still don't think is playing his best hockey either. Having those guys being able to step up and play key minutes and to win those minutes is important. It's allowing for players to get healthy. It's allowing for Dahlin hopefully to find that next level. We know about the off-ice stuff, and it's understandable that maybe he doesn't this entire season, but I've been thoroughly impressed by Byram. I'm not here to have a contract discussion with you by any means. I think that's something down the road we can deal with, or a trade or not trade discussion. Again, I think that's something down the road you can deal with. He has one more year on his contract, and that's not something we need to get into a heated debate about right now. So credit to him. Keep up the good work. Hopefully he keeps, going in the right direction. A lot of guys on this team, I think, are just playing with really, really good confidence. And you can see it in the way they're attacking the game and the playing with speed. And, that's how there's some players here and there, sure, that aren't playing their best hockey. I don't think now's the time to really kick some guys when the positivity is flowing. So we'll stay on that side of things. But, overall, I think, like I said in the beginning, I think I come away happy with tonight. I wanted this team to show me that they were different. Again, it's more signs of showing that you're not like the team in the past. You're a different team. You don't let one loss sink you after a long winning streak. You win those games at home against a beatable opponent. You handle some adversity within the game, letting them back into it, and you calm down and get your 2 points that you need. Because really, at the end of the season, we're not going to look back on how they won those 2 points, how they got those 2 points, those rough periods, those rough patches. It's going to be about how many you have at the end of the day. So, let's keep it rolling. The Rangers on Thursday in Madison Square Garden. It's their one road game they have here over the stretch that we talked about yesterday. Going into it, there's going to be no Adam Fox. He was put on long-term injured reserve today. There's going to be no Igor Shesterkin. He was put on injured reserve today after his collision with old friend J.J. Peterka. I think it was last night. So you're getting no Fox. You're getting no Shesterkin, two of their better players. This is a team in the Rangers that are below you. They have 46 points in 44 games, a 5.23 points percentage. And oh, by the way, they're 5-10-4 on home ice. They're inexplicably really bad on home ice. Their scoring is not good either. So go in there. You're the better team. They have injuries. You should know what that's like as a team to not take them lightly. Conference opponent, just go bury them. Go in there, get your points, and then come back home for the remaining of the what would be 5 games on home ice to put yourself in a good spot. So I don't even think you need to ramble on anymore. Excited for Thursday. I'm ready for the next one for sure. I'm ready to. I'm glad these games here are pretty bunched, so we can kind of just keep this going every other night or every few nights, and in between watch some games around the league and standings watch. It might be a little bit early still. Today was officially the halfway point, their 41st game of the season, but excitement continues. The building was pretty loud today on a Tuesday night in January. That's cool to see. So, get out there if you can, support the team, have some fun. I know there's a Bills playoff game coming up this weekend. That'll be, nervous energy, but in the meantime, we can have fun with the hockey team here. And then once they're the only team going in Buffalo, whether there'll be a Super Bowl victory or not from the football team, that's going to happen. I think this city will really embrace, especially if they're still in this playoff mix. We'll really embrace them, and it'll be a good time. So we'll keep having fun here. We'll keep hopefully seeing some wins in the playoff race and the conversations that will come from that. All right, well, thanks for listening again, and we will talk again on Thursday night after the game against the Rangers. See ya.